catching me off guard, man.
It's catching you off guard, but that's exactly why you are here. What's up, everybody? I'm so excited to have a very special guest with me today. He's a husband, he's a coach, he's a father, he's a teacher, he's a friend. He's a very, very good friend, and I feel like he would be great to have on the Royalty Connection podcast, as we're always talking about love, peace, agape love, and the unbiased truth, and keeping it real at all times. So I want to introduce my brother from another, Mr. Ryan Holman. What's up, man?
Happy to chop it up with you for a little while.
Yeah, man. So kind of give the viewership or the listenership, I don't know that that's not even a word, but those who are enjoying this conversation, a little bit of info on yourself, man. I mean, I didn't want to tell your whole life story because it's always better coming from the person.
Yeah, no, I'm just a teacher here. I live in Levittown, Pennsylvania. Kind of not necessarily born and raised. Was my parents are from Jersey and moved us over to PA when I was a little kid. Lived in Penwood Crossing Trailer Parks for people who are local, who know what's up. And then we moved to Thornbridge. My parents still live there. In local terms, I went to Westchester. My wife, who was my high school girlfriend, she then came to Westchester also. We did 4 or 5 years there, studying to become teachers, with the plans to move back to where we came from, and did exactly that. I teach in the school that I went to. My daughter drives to work with me every day. She's a 7th grader in the school that I teach at, and her locker is about 15 steps from my room, so she gets to come in and see me. Like, we get to hang out and stuff. So it's really cool. I'm maybe the most local of a lot of local guys, in terms of just my involvement with the people in this community and things like that. So about 8 years ago, I started a girls basketball league called Lady Falcons Elite Hoops. Pre-pandemic time, we had there was 650 plus girls in the program, and we had built something pretty cool, and done a lot of good for the girls here who we just felt like weren't really getting equal opportunity to play and access to good coaching and things like that as the boys were getting. So I coached middle school basketball for 18 years, and to be honest with you, nobody coaches middle school basketball for 18 years. Everybody coaches for 2 years, and then somebody else does it, and then somebody else gets roped into it. Pretty much how I got roped into coaching soccer this year at my school after not coaching it for 14 years. So, yeah. But when you're a coach, you coach, and if you can do it, you do it, and that's just the way that it is. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of my story. I mean, like I said, I married my high school girlfriend. Her name is Brooke. She means everything to me. I got 2 daughters, they're 12 and 10. Jolie is my older one, and Nola is the younger. Like I said, my kids went to the elementary school that I went to, or going to the middle school that I went to, and my life has been very circular. So
right. So basically, it's like you the neighborhood hero, bro. That's what I'm hearing. You went away.
Who you talk to.
Well, you talking to your boy, so I'm gonna call you the neighborhood hero because I know what you're about, man. And I wanted to bring you on here because I wanted to talk about something. Well, multiple things, and just keep it real as possible, just like our conversations, man. I remember we were talking the other day, and I was in the kitchen. I was eating some food and talking to you at the same time. At one point, I put my burrito down and I started pacing around the room. And Tiffany, my wife, was like, "Yo, it's all right. It's cool. Like, are you good? Who are you talking to like that? Like, are you good?" And it's just so funny because I don't really talk on the phone with like a lot of people, if like anybody, because I just let alone talking about conversations with education, entertainment, politics, whatever. Because like we said, man, people are so soft-served, and they don't want to listen to understand. It's always listening to respond. So I know having you on here as my brother from another will be a great conversation. So today's topic is titled Teaching in Multiple Pandemics. And a subtopic would be surviving in multiple pandemics. So first kind of thought and question to you is, We have the obvious pandemic with a man-made created virus. I said it. And we also have racism, we have prejudice, we have mental health, and we have an overall feeling of, what the heck? So I kind of wanted to get your perspective as a husband, as a coach, but as a teacher, man. You're teaching the future leaders of the world, and I just want to get your perspective and just talk about your everyday and what you encounter. And of course, we'll leave out the name of your workplace just because there's some strange people out here. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was all very surreal. Just thinking back on how it all started, it was just to think that our kids that week, as things started to unfold, like March 13th, of 2 years ago now, our kids were most concerned because we were supposed to go to the zoo. we were supposed to go to the zoo on Friday. So when we got called into, our staff meeting after school, it was kind of like, hey, no zoo tomorrow. And so on Thursday, I went back into school and we had to tell the kids on Thursday, like, hey, our trip to the zoo is not going to happen. Starting to get nervous about, and again, this is like the way that we talk about the pandemic now is not the way that it was talked about initially. Like there wasn't even language yet to be able to describe what was happening. Like we hadn't even invented like new terms and new words to be able to describe what we were going through.
Right.
So all everybody knew was like, oh man, bummer, we're not going to the zoo. And then
Philadelphia Zoo is serious, bro. You know that.
Yeah, no doubt. No, it's a good trip. But so we end up coming in back on Friday, and then we don't go to the zoo, and then that was it. They told us take your computers home, and by the following Monday we were just looking at each other like, well, we don't even know what's happening. Like at this point, we're trying to figure out how we're going to meet. Things like Zoom were not even things that people used. Like no one ever utilized Zoom before. So everyone's trying to figure this out on the fly. So those first days were just crazy with how are we even going to do this, and then figuring out like. We had Google Classroom and stuff already ready to go in school. So, I mean, that became the major focus. Like everything was just on Classroom. Right. We were just sending the kids stuff, asking them to do it and go and pass fail with their grades and everything. And, that's all fine. And, it's all fine and good as a last resort. But, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, people trying to figure out how to best deliver stuff to the kids. And, the rest of the year and all through the summer it's just crazy in terms of new things that were rolled out, new platforms for teaching students stuff, Zoom and Google Meets, like all that stuff like was just kind of thrown at us, and our district did a great job of getting us through all the new platform stuff that we were using as we kind of moved away from Google. But I realized like 3 days before school started, last school year, 2020 school year, I realized going into like 3 days before, like I don't have any idea how to use Google Meet. Like this is what my classroom is. My classroom is a Google Meet. I have no idea how to use it 3 days before school starts. So I actually left my kids at home and I went to school and
oh word.
We got to figure this out. They grabbed their laptops, and I went to school with mine. I'm like, we got to figure this out because I don't even know how this works.
Right.
So, fortunately, my younger one is really good with computer and stuff like that. And, she kind of helped too, and was able to describe what she was seeing on her end and what I was seeing on my end. So, so that was pretty crazy. And that we did that up until December. And then we started to bring kids back. So brought them back in 2 cohorts, A cohort and a B cohort. And, that was fine, but it was just kind of depressing just because, I mean, you've spent a lot of time in school and that the best part about school is just the buzz. Like
for sure.
when there's a buzz in school and like there's a certain energy about being in a school and there was none of that. Like there was no buzz. Like it was just, kind of like depressingly quiet and telling the kids that you want them to talk to each other, but at the same time, like they're being sent the message that like they're not supposed to be facing each other and they're not supposed to be talking to each other. Yeah, everyone's in masks and stuff like that. And, and then we brought back more kids in April. So as a teacher, like we literally opened school 3 times. Like the opening of school was a major ordeal, just as an educator.
Yeah.
We did it thrice, in that time. And so it was obviously a really, really stressful year. Heading into the summer this year, everybody was hopeful. I kind of like what's happening right now is honestly what I had expected. So I wasn't upset or thrown by it at all. My kids asked me at the end of the year, like, Mr. Holman, what do you think is going to happen next year? I said, I think you'll be back, but I think you'll be here in Mass. And so I wasn't terribly surprised or outraged or anything like that by it. That was what I was expecting. So,
yeah. Well, man, I mean, you got to be steady. And I guess, also for the people who don't know where we kind of met, it's so funny how like God will keep certain people in your life, along your life for different seasons and stuff like that. So I met my bro Ryan at the YMCA. He was the swagged out basketball coach, and I was like the junior counselor. I was
counselor in training, Mr. DJ.
You know what I'm saying, Mr. DJ. You already know what it is. So. This is like a generational leap, though. This is like, because I know.
Realize that like when you first started working there, we were still playing dodgeball with actual like rubber dodgeballs. Right. You know what I mean? Like my time working at the YMCA bridged the gap between the era in which you were allowed to use the rubber dodgeball and the era in which you were no longer allowed to use the rubber dodgeball because it was scary and mean and stuff.
The rubber dodgeball. The one with the lines on it. So when somebody teed off on your head.
We had the kid mouth got crushed with a dodgeball.
Mouth got lit up.
Yeah.
Man, shout out to the YMCA. Y'all do good work.
Absolutely. They're like redoing ours. It's crazy. It's all under construction. Yeah. It's all under construction.
Man, I haven't been down that way in a very long time. Yeah, so me and Ryan, we met in the YMCA, and I ended up going to the same high school we went to. Like we kind of grew up in the same neighborhood, the same community, same area. So we're always kind of like in passing. And then I went away to Bucks County Community College for 1 year, and then I went to Morgan State. I mean, a lot of y'all know this, but then I came back after getting my master's of arts in teaching, and kind of in between like New York and the Los Angeles transition of, TV and film and commercials and stuff like that. And I wanted to use my degree that I went to school for while I was, in transit and whatnot. And I was able to go to the same school that Ryan teaches. And we just been chopping it up every time we see each other because we both stand on the same principles. We're both men of God, straight up, 10 toes down, believe the Bible front to back. And that's all that. And we both just carry ourselves with honor and strength and servant leadership. I say that a lot. Self-service and self-promotion is not true leadership. It's about your service to others. So we've kind of just been moving in this same vein for a long time. And I do consider him a brother of mine, a big brother, somebody I could talk to if I ever needed to talk or just yell about stuff. And we need more people like that. And when a lot of people say, why you call that man? Why you call that man your brother? You know he's white. I'm like, bro, there are 2 races in this world. One race who believes in God, another race that don't. Everybody else has the same blood and we have a heartbeat that's pumping. So I consider communication and unity the real thing that holds people together, man. And that's what we've been doing. So that's a little kind of Disney-esque backstory of us. What is it like between like different prejudices and racist type of situations? Because having a mix of people, where some people come from a whole bunch of money, some people don't come from a whole bunch of money.
And as a kid, honestly, I heard, friends and family and people who, my friends and family interacted with talk and didn't really think much about like what was being said and what the message was. Yeah. But as an adult now, you look back and sometimes you're like, that was actually pretty racist.
Right.
like that was actually, that's not something that should have been talked about. Like we shouldn't have been talking like that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it was so nonchalant, just so, just subtle and seemingly benign that everybody just kind of rolled and laughed with certain things. It just, again, I don't know if there is a white culture.
Yeah. I mean, just your statement, you don't know if there is a white culture. Like that's profound, man. I mean, can you kind of dig into that just to keep it real? Like, what is your perspective with that? Because
I just and like that, to me, that wasn't meant to be like a controversial thing. It's not like I have some perspective of some world traveler who's really been involved with a lot of cultures. I've lived essentially in one culture and in one area and in one phase of life for my entire existence. So I've been a middle class person who struggles and who lives paycheck to paycheck and takes on extra jobs to do to give my kids nicer things. Like we have to do extra stuff to give our kids nicer things, and
yeah.
I've never had a problem with that, and that's the only way that I know how people live. So, for me, I just don't know if what I've experienced is universal. Like if that's just something that whether you live in Levittown, Pennsylvania, or Levittown, New York, or the equivalent of Levittown in Oklahoma or
Right.
Nebraska, like I don't know. I don't know if that's something that other people experience, but I think that I would guess that if people were honest with themselves, that there is that, or there's probably something that is more overt and more open about that racism. So,
For sure.
and
For sure.
part of my perspective also comes from, what I've experienced applies to others or not. So I'm not there to make a bold statement. Like, I don't know if that exists.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is I'm not an authority on what is and isn't culture.
No, you know what you know, and you stand on what you know. And if you don't know, you're willing to learn more. And I think that's what makes you, bro. And that's what makes a real man a man. I mean, you just said, yo, you're doing the best that you can to provide for your family and make sure your kids, have more than what you have. And that's real manhood right there. When it comes to like me and what I've experienced, I mean, my experience has been very, very interesting and very different in a lot of ways. My parents growing up from the inner city in Philadelphia, my dad in North Philly, my mom in South Philly, when it was really about that life, like all that stuff for all you you rappers out there who talk about stuff that don't exist nowadays. It really existed back then in those 70s, 80s, 90s, all that type of stuff. So my parents ended up meeting in church, had me, moved out to the county before they had me, and just for a better situation. And my father, he graduated from like 3 or 4 universities, 3 or 4 degrees. He was really just about education and success and hard work. And my mom, she was an orthodontist technician. So that's where I got these from, just in case y'all trying to figure, his smile's fire. Shout out to my mom if you're watching. I love you, Mom. And they were just all about making sure we had better opportunities. And that went from an urban lifestyle where it's mostly Black and brown and people of color to the county where it would just be me in a classroom of 13 or 14 or 15 kids. And that was interesting, kind of traumatizing in a way, just a little bit in certain situations. And I had my first encounter with racism, I want to say, in the 6th grade. 6th grade is a very awkward year, as you definitely know. You're coming into yourself and trying to figure out, how do I talk to this girl who I think she's so cute? And I don't have a cell phone right now because this was prior to the big cell phone boom. I got to write her this note. So my penmanship got to be fire. Just this poem has to be so fire. Like meet me outside by the tree so I can tell you how I want you to kiss me, type of stuff like that. You feel me? Like crazy. Like I was that man. But
the note is extinct in the middle. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, bro. It don't exist no more. So
They just go to the bathroom and text each other now.
right. That's corny, man. Like there's no like thrill in that, bro. There's no thrill. So I had a situation
You also
where
don't have to make physical contact with the person, right? You can
yeah,
continue because you know how middle school relationships actually go. They're not actually You walk right past each other in the hallway. You never talk. You never talk.
right. It's real. It's real weird. So I was invited over this girl that I really liked. Invited her over her house to do homework afterwards, after school around like 5 o'clock or whatever. Her big sister was there, so I rode my bike over. Like it was this whole thing. I was super hyped. I went over there, and you know, we were eating some food, and then all of a sudden she was like, "You're gonna have to go now." And I'm like, "Why? We didn't even start our homework. You know, like, what are you talking about?" And she says, "Well, my dad's gonna be here soon." I'm like, "Well, okay. Doesn't your mom knows I'm here? Your big sister is here." Yeah, but my dad he doesn't like black people. And I'm like, hey, I'm in sixth grade. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't like black people? Like, is he good? Does he need some assistance? Like,
Yeah,
you know, like
I
so
can help the problem
yeah, like I'm
because
confused.
listen, I've known you long enough to be able to say this with confidence. You're probably like, well, if he doesn't, then if you introduce him to me, then he's gonna start liking them because
Like
what's there not to like?
for real, like you see me, bro. So
You were
yeah,
probably baffled, like, what? I can
bro,
help.
I was perplexed, and I just thought to myself, I said, "Yo, maybe I should leave." So I hopped on my blue mongoose bike and went back to the crib, and I just sat with that for a little bit because I was like, well, I see this girl every day. You know, her parents will pick her up from school, but once you get into somebody's home, it's like a different level of comfort. And I don't know. It's just I feel like so many people are driven by their perspectives of what they see in mass media and culture, and that's another topic I want to jump on. But I think the most pain that I've felt with racism or prejudice per se happened within school, happened within middle school, and also happened in college, and one of the colleges I went to. Um, and it was seventh grade, I want to say. I was transitioning from a private Christian school, which was nice. I think it was Christian in name, more so Christian in culture. That's another thing. A lot of people claim to follow Jesus, but don't claim to act like him, which is a problem we have in culture today. Um, and I went from a Christian school to a public school. I was the biggest. I was like one of the biggest guys in the grade. You know, I was like 14. Maybe I was like 6'1". I was like maybe like 210. And it was during the age where the hip hop became big on like Jersey culture, like the NBA teams and stuff like that. So I would come to school super hype after like watching, I don't know, Allen Iverson or something like that. I would come rocking the AI jersey. I would have the headband on. It was a whole movement. And
Yeah, it was a whole costume. It was
yo,
great.
yo,
Yeah.
you know it. You wore it too.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
and it's crazy. So like I would go in there, and like the first few weeks, I would get all these stares from like some of like the principals and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I just got here. Like, aren't y'all supposed to make me feel comfortable? And then after a while, I was called down to the office, and the principal was like, "Are you in a gang? Are you affiliated with anybody that we should know about? Are you going to bring attention to this school that shouldn't be that
Did you
type of
wear a
attention?"
bandana one day? It's amazing how bandanas in public schools have always been equated
No,
to gangs.
it was
Cracks me up.
not even a band. It was a headband, bro. It was a headband. And so,
Uh,
I was like, no.
was it red though? Did you wear 3 red ones in a row?
I I wore a red one,
Probably.
and then I was a white one with the NBA logo. That's the crazy part. So I'm like, nah, I don't do that. Actually, my parents, we live in this section over here. My parents have worked very hard. We're blessed to live in a
Yeah.
nice home. Um, and I don't even know what a gang looks like. Uh,
Yeah.
so I said that to them. I think everything was going to be cool. And the next few weeks, I was still treated like I was like public enemy number one. The joint was crazy. And I told my
Yeah,
dad,
like people weren't believing it, right? Like you
bro,
had to convince them like to believe it. Like, yeah, I'm really a nice kid. That
yeah.
happens in school, man. That's 100%. That's something that happens with certain kids every single year, man.
And it was crazy, man, because here I am, bro, in the 7th grade. Like, I'm just trying to make friends. I just got here. So I told my dad, and my dad, being as big as he was, former Penn State football player, degreed individual, came up in that place and said, "Sir, if you ever, if you ever call my son out and tell him he's in a gang, tell him he's doing all these types of things, he's just trying to learn, I am going to bring the fire in here that you've never seen before in your life." And that came with a whole bunch of backing, from every type of law that you could possibly have. Because, here I am, a kid just trying to get acclimated. And then you're going to tell me that, I can't wear the certain clothes or I can't even participate in sports. You're telling me I can't be in sports because, I'm in a gang? So
it's hard. It's hard because a lot of people don't understand like the temperature in the room. Like a lot of people don't have a good gauge of the temperature in the room. Listen, I've spent the last 18 years in middle school, and there's definitely certain kids that you come across who, you like just by being in their presence, like what it is. And sometimes, sometimes kids will show you without, they don't realize that they're giving you information about themselves. But you have to pay attention. Like I'm in the hallway, and I'm in the hallway because I want to be in the hallway because I want to know what the temperature in the school is, and I need to be constantly, adjusting how I interact with people based on how it's going. Because there's certain seasons of the year in school when it gets hard because the kids, start to push back a little bit, and then you gotta, you have to quell the rebellion, and here we go. And then we get to the holidays, and you're good. So,
quell the rebellion.
I mean, it's that's just what it is. But again, for me, like just bringing it back to what we were talking about before, to me, I don't know how you. Again, I know your family, and you guys, you were out of the building before I was in the building, and then I had Matthew, and again, from the first second that I met Matthew, all I felt from Matthew was the warmth that everybody who knows your family, like, just like they know that warmth. And that's all I ever felt from you guys. And I try to give all of my students and as much of the benefit of the doubt as humanly possible, and I'm trying to find something good in all those kids, even the kids who are really up against it. And that's I live in the place where a lot of our kids who really struggle come from, and I see them in my neighborhood, and I walk past them in my section, and they're outside shooting hoops, and me and my wife are out taking a walk and stuff like that. Like, the situation here is not perfect. It's not the best teaching situation in the whole entire world, but like for me, people ask me all the time about teaching in the district that I live in, and I'm like, I can't imagine doing anything else. A huge part of my motivation and like the why I do what I do is because I live here. I'm invested in all these kids, and I don't care where they come from or what their background is. Like, if they're strong, then my community is strong, and that's all that I really care about, because my kids live here, and I'm expecting my kids to probably continue to live here and want to live here. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with this place. It's a pretty great place to live if you just make the most of it. So
you hear the quote a lot. You make your environment, or your environment makes you, or whatever. For me, I mean, you really got to build from the ground up, man. And this is something we've talked about offline as well. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be famous, but nobody wants to put in the work. And for me, I mean, I think it's been like the story of my life, or my family's life. We've been involved in the entertainment industry for a very, very long time. And the things that have kind of come across, my desk with my agent or my manager or my brother, it's been some stuff that people would like really sell their pants for. And I'm being pants to say polite. because it's just everybody wants it quick, everybody wants it easy, and in this social media culture, it's like, yo, like I don't need to go to school to do anything. Uh, I can be a model. I can be an influencer. I can be somebody who just does things that they shouldn't necessarily do and they have no business doing and make more money than you. So it's almost like the respect factor is going in a lot of different areas, especially when it comes to entertainment. Things that I've turned down with like, yo, so Donald, you're 6'4", you're 25 cents away from 300 pounds. So you have to be a gangbanger, bro. You have to be this gangbanger. You have to be this burglar. You have to be, that's like, that's your type, right? Yeah, and I'm looking at these people like, bro, I got 2 degrees, I got certifications, I got commercial credits, I got TV, I got all this stuff, and you're telling me I'm limited to being a gangbanger, a burglar, and all this other stuff. Where are you getting this information from? And I think it kind of hints back to what you were saying in terms of perspective. You know what you know, but if you're willing to know more and understand and listen to understand instead of listening to respond and typecast people and stereotype people, then we're all in a better place, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, but my thing is just wait and see. Like, let people show you. Like, to me, the way that I interact with people and the way that I decide who, I want to be able to share my time and my thoughts and the things that are important to me with it is, I don't rush into anything. And you could say that I'm definitely a pretty guarded person. I don't let a lot of people. I don't let a lot of people into what it is that I have going on and what I think about personally. Because again, like I'm a very much a wait and see and let people reveal what they are like into you before you start to make plans and share things and,
Right.
and like that. And obviously there's some scar tissue there that is the reason why that is the way that it is.
Yeah.
How do you treat us?
Yeah.
How do you, like, what are your actions? Like, what are you doing? And are you someone who I want to, stand next to and be associated with? And,
Right.
that's hard. And I don't want, I don't want to sound arrogant about it and be like, oh, I pick and choose who I want to be around. But I'll just as soon stay at the house with my girls.
Yo, straight like
That's
that,
fine
bro.
with me. I don't really need it. I don't really need the other stuff. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny, man. I don't know. I feel like my experiences have kind of made me a lone wolf as well. Kind of like it's just me and my family, just a close group of people, man, because, you know,
It's hard, and that says a lot though, because I don't feel like you're really that kind of a person. You are like a bring them all in, but again, after a little while though,
yeah,
that gets hard. Like you get burned, and
yeah,
it gets hard to do that, and it makes you feel uncomfortable to set yourself up for like another hurt and have it
yeah,
happen to you again when you're trying to bring it all together, and people are pushing back, and it's like, all right,
yeah,
well, at some point you kind of just stop doing that.
yeah. I
But
mean,
like I
I
said, I'm
call it
content, with what I do.
like situational hypeness. That's what I call it.
Yeah,
You're
that's
around
fair.
certain, you know what I'm saying? Like you're around
And
certain
so
people.
am I. Like you've seen me in different situations. My intensity level is very high, but I can go MC
Very
the pep.
high.
Yeah, I'll throw a costume on and act up at school, like
Oh
but I
man.
can't, I couldn't do it every day. I can't
Yeah.
maintain that. It takes like when we do the pep rally, it takes like a week and a half of mental preparation for me to get myself like in that zone, get myself psyched up to do it. Because it's not
Right.
my personality. Like that's not how I am. But
Right.
I can go do it because I can give these kids a good time for 2 hours on a Thursday afternoon before field day and
Yeah.
get them hyped. So,
That's
not me,
it's hard
but
to
whatever.
sustain.
Oh, 100%. It's impossible. It's not even remotely possible.
Oh
I got
man.
enough energy. I can do one of those things, and I'm like tired for like 3 days. My voice is gone.
Yeah.
My body hurts. I think I'm just like I'm a mess for 3 days afterwards because that's every bit of emotional capacity that I have. I throw out there, and then I'm just like,
I feel you, bro. But what you do is special, man, and you do it so well. I guess next time I want to ask you. So we live in the era of like, I'm not gonna call it. I'm not gonna call it fake social justice because it's real social justice. There's some issues out here, but it's like people are so quick nowadays to march for something before they get the information on it. You know, we live in a time where people want to just, yo, it was on Facebook, dog. It was on Twitter. It was on Instagram. So it must be real. We ride at dawn. Like, how about we really get some education with the trends and the situations that literally just repeat itself? Racism, prejudice repeats itself. You know, discrimination, it continues to repeat itself. It just takes on different forms. And when I think of, well, how do we stop these unjust acts? Well, in order to stop the people that are doing the unjust acts, we have to take their seat. And oftentimes that starts with an education, which was one of my biggest motivations between, like, you know, people say, oh man, we're in the entertainment industry. That's cool. I'm saying, well, I'm also degreed. So I don't have to wait for somebody to tell me like, this is what you're going to do in order to feed your family. I'm like, well, no, like I can actually go teach middle school, high school, college. You know, I can go on the speaking circuit. I can do all these things. So you can't tell me what to do based on your beliefs that are sometimes sideways based on this culture we live in. And it's just a really, really interesting point, man, with just like we're marching and everybody wants change. Everybody's in line for change, but nobody wants to apply to be the cashier, to create change everywhere you go. I call myself the cashier, bro. Where everywhere I go, I want change to happen.
I'm a certain type of person, and I'm the kind of person who has always felt like your emotions are overrated. Like your feelings, and you know what you feel about things are incredibly overrated. And because to me, it's just one of the ways that we accept lies that, you know, that
Right.
the devil tells us about who we are and what we think about things. Where, you know, it's like, you know, it's ridiculous, but like, you know, it's like the devil says jump and everybody asks how high, and that's, you know, to me, like you said, the lack of ability to have an open dialogue and to have actual discussions that don't turn into, you know, clever memes. You know, it's embarrassing.
Legit.
Like I never get involved in anything like that online, just because the only thing that I could say honestly is that, like, I honestly feel really bad for people who are so ingrained in that online culture that they think what they do is okay. Like, I just, to me, it's just incredible that people could be so callous and so quick to chop somebody's head off with their smartphone because they have a keyboard on it. And it's like, okay, but like, you know, my buddy's wife, you know, has a phenomenal quote, and we use it. It applies to almost everything. It's incredible. It's a great quote. She just says, it doesn't matter if you're right if you handle it the wrong way. So even if your opinion, or even if your idea about, you know, what should happen with all these, you know, these situations, even if you're correct, if you use that correct point of view to beat somebody over the head with it, and to make them feel bad, or to point out some, you know, inadequacy in their argument, or them as a person, or their appearance, or as it tends to go ultimately, as these, you know, battles sort of devolve online, like the only thing that I can say to people is like, wow, like, this is what you spend your time doing? Like,
Right.
why don't you channel some of this energy into something that could be productive? Like, do you have solutions to these problems?
Right.
Do you want them to actually not be problems anymore? Because it seems like you want the problems that you're complaining about so that you can argue about them and have something to do with your time. Like, it makes me, again, I say all the time, like, that I should not be on social media and everything like that. But at the same time, like, it's good to know who's going to come untethered at times, so that I can make sure that I'm not in the area and I'm not collateral damage when it happens. So, you know, I teach 7th grade social studies also. Like, I teach US history now. Like, so I'm teaching US history. So I've been thrown full thrust in the middle of some of, you know, the social media arguments that are going on. And I addressed it at back to school night, because I was like, listen, if you're worried about, again, in our community, as you're probably aware, a lot of outrage and ink and craziness dedicated to critical race theory, and whether or not that's going to be applied in the school district and stuff like that. And this is no offense to anyone at the school where I teach, but I just think that what I've been telling people as they've come to me and asked me about critical race theory and what is actually going to get taught there is that, do you trust me? Like, do you trust me as your child's teacher? Like, you put me in charge of your kid for, at least 44 minutes a day. And, I function in loco parentis, by the law. I tell kids the truth. Like, that's what it comes down to. So we've talked about people tearing down statues and stuff. I said, tear down statues all you want, but if there's no dialogue, if there's no talk, if there's no conversation, if there's no real information that you can trust, if there's no, and honestly, that's the biggest problem right there. There's no information that you can trust. None.
Bro. I mean, and we definitely have to talk about some more stuff, like, but man, critical race theory, just all these theories that people who write books have never experienced a day in their life. Just like certain commentators in sports who have never played the sport a day in their life. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. The best way you can really try to make some change for the kids in school, use some of that money that you're paying some of these teachers $200,000 a year and put it in a production, put it in a film, put it in something that like really crosses their brain waves. These kids are always in their phone. If we tailor it to what they're used to seeing, it'll just be like, oh, well, this is just my normal content. So the normal content that is negative and divisive will start to decrease as you put out more content that is true, that is real, that is loving, that is agape love, which is unconditional love. And those are some of the things that I try to introduce to the different colleges, even that I speak at and whatnot, just to tell them to stop being so scary, and let's really, really, really talk about it, man. People talk about the founding of America. Christopher Columbus discovered America. The brother ain't discovered America, dog. America was already discovered. And it's just like you think about things like that, where like
Columbus never stepped foot on America, not once. Listen, I mean, this Columbus Day is coming, and I always do Columbus Day stuff because Columbus. The accomplishment of Columbus is that he made it possible. He was the one who took the risk, right? Nobody knew. There was still controversy in the world as to whether or not the world was flat and if you could just fall off the side. Shout out to Kyrie Irving. So
I knew you were going to say that.
I had to say something, but for the lesson, if you want to teach the lesson to me on Columbus, teach the lesson about being courageous enough to sail into waters that you might be falling off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You might also be finding riches and gold, like according to what the legends that you've heard.
Right.
But because that's what all this early settlement was about. It was about gold. And Columbus wrote back to Queen Isabel and said that he had found gold, mountains of gold. Like, no. And, he ended up wiping out most of that native population, either by disease or taking them back as slaves. But, again, the problem is that there is a lesson there. There's a great lesson there.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that get applied in here? But it's a good way to show kids also, like, hey, yeah, history likes to gloss over some things to magnify other things. It's just what happens. It's just how the history is written. Similar to if you go to Great Britain and read about the Revolutionary War, it's not called the Revolutionary War. And so they don't talk about it like that. It's all about perspective. Who's telling the story?
Right. Man, that's real, bro. That's real. History is written by the victor, which it is. But that's also why you don't hear a lot of, and I'm about to go there, a lot of Black success stories. why in the world are there still movies being made about slavery and how the black man is always struggling and the black family is this, it's not together, it's not, yo, granted, if you really want to keep it real, we'll talk about
To keep
1965
you
and,
angry about it. That's why.
you know what I'm saying? And the civil rights movement and stuff like that was, a short while ago, but so much has been done. Like, let's talk about uplifting a race. Let's talk about just upholding socioeconomic people who are disenfranchised. Let's talk about unity and how we can help each other. And that's where it's all about, man. And it's just, when it's constantly perpetuated in media, that's what you will just consistently think, yo, this guy is a white guy, so he must be racist. Or this guy's a black guy, so he about to steal something. Or a Mexican guy, he must, I don't know, whatever. And it's just, we have to stop the big media circus, which honestly, I think that's really is, because it just perpetuates through all these algorithms. And yeah, bro.
Yeah, it's listen, I think it's a really difficult battle, and one that I don't know, not to be too pessimistic, but I don't know that the crazy train that we're on, I don't know if there's a way to stop it, man, because to be perfectly honest with you, there are not a lot of people who want what you and I want, which would be, large scale change of the way that things get done on a number of levels. People are too ingrained in what it is that they know and what it is that they do. And I mean, the pandemic is a perfect example. Like just getting people to come out of the house again after being in, and people do what's most comfortable for them, and what's most comfortable for them is just laying around and not really doing much, and not, change takes a lot of work. And, as we know, there are few workers. There are very few workers.
That's it. Change takes work. And it's so funny. What is the scripture? I'm drawing a blank. The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few. So it's like it's a lot of gold out here. There's a lot of success out here, but you have to be willing to work together with your fellow man, with your fellow brother. And that's just kind of what I preach, teach, and do my best to live, man. I guess the final question would be, how does your faith play in your life in general, but also just when you see, I mean, you have two girls, as girls, like, they have way more changes than men. So
I just read a great article. It's called, it talks about people just drowning in dopamine and like the negative effect that it's having on people. Cause I try to tell my students at the beginning of the year, just give them some helpful pointers to get them through the year. And one of them is always to stay off social media as much as you possibly can. That it was not created. It was not created for your consumption. It was not created for your developing brain. And it's going to ultimately lead you down roads that you don't want to be on. So I definitely preach to my students to stay off of social media as much as humanly possible. So the boys are different though, because the boys still are in the same boat because they play video games all day. So as much as the girls are doing other things and are being more social on social media, the boys are more secluded. The boys are have their headphones on and they're playing games and they're blowing stuff up and killing things and everything. And again, in my class, they all have their Chromebooks, and I have this thing called Go Guardian, which allows me to see what they're doing on their screen. So I got some spy tech on my computer to see what they're up to.
I got some spy tech.
And listen, all of them immediately, like the first second that they get game, like even when they're not, and we've been doing a lot more stuff on paper this year because we can do stuff on paper because they're in school and they need to write some and do that. So I just told them, like, the first time that I see you gaming when you're supposed to be doing work, you'll never see your Chromebook in here again. You'll walk in and you'll put it on my desk. So just trying to hold them accountable for what it is. And, but the big thing with the pandemic to me has been just the ability to escape. And everybody has been gone. Like you don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to face any sort of uncomfortable conversation. You can just ghost and you're out. So, that's the craziest part. I mean, in terms of my faith, our church gave out a book last week, and I started reading it. It's phenomenal. It's called Gentle and Lowly. It's about the heart of Christ. And I'll tell you what, man, between the phone call that I had with you the other day and just starting to read that and just facing situations that I've had in my life over the last 10 days, like it's been sustaining. And the last chapter that I just read just talks about how, Christ talks about, take my yoke, like take, and the great part about it, as it kind of unpacks in the book, is that like Christ's yoke is not a yoke. It's him taking it off of you. It's him releasing it. It's him taking all that weight off of you. And it was exactly what I needed to hear. And, I really think that, as if you draw near to God, he will draw near to you. And, sometimes I struggle where I don't take advantage of the full power that I have in Christ. And, it's something that I'm still definitely a work in progress when it comes to my family. Here is taken care of. I'm forever indebted to my wife, who plays a huge role in my faith life and encouraging me. And it's just a matter of it being really the only thing that sustains me, to be honest with you. So without Christ, I don't know that I could do it.
That's what it is. I mean, you can't really. Ain't no extra sauce. It's right. Really.
I honestly don't know how people do it. I honestly don't. I honestly don't know how people who don't know Christ, like I don't know how they do it. And so I feel like I do have compassion for people who, sometimes will add to the weight that I feel, because I just cannot imagine trying to make sense of all of this without having some place to look and focus my eyes and be like, well, that's why I'm here. So, so all this is going to happen. Like, this is all for my benefit. And all these pieces are being weaved together, for good. And even when it sucks, I can trust that, all right, he's going to make something good of this. So, or sometimes you don't see the blessing right away. It's, you see the blessing months later and you're like, oh, okay. Right. Now I know why those 2 weeks were terrible. Like those 2 weeks were terrible, but now I know why those 2 weeks had to be terrible, because now he's put it all back together.
Yeah. He's putting it all back together, just like you said. Romans 8. All things work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to His purpose. And man, that's it. That's what you're doing each and every day as a husband, father, a coach, and a friend, and a teacher. It's really important, man. And I wanted to take this time to really highlight you, man, because you've been a light. And like we were talking the other day, it's kind of like the underdog or the unsung hero award, or whatever you want to call it. We don't do it for the accolades, man, because you're a true servant leader. I believe I'm a true servant leader. And we carry that, man. We are the light of the world. We're the salt of the earth. Everywhere we go, we're supposed to light it up. Everywhere we go, we're supposed to bring the flavor, man. And I just honor you. I honor you for the man of God that you are. And I'm excited for what God has in store for you and your family as you continue to just lean in on Him, man, because that's the power source. That's the power source. Nothing else, nothing more. And we just got to continue to be the change, man, and not just marching for change, not tweeting for justice, but getting out of line and being the cashier, man. Going to school, getting the education, getting the knowledge, listening, having hard conversations, and doing it grassroots level, man, doing it community, doing your school board, doing all these types of things. And although we're going to face a lot of adversity, within education and entertainment, as we're kind of in both realms here, there's change and it's possible. I don't believe change is here. I believe change is now. So yeah, man. I mean, do you have anything else on your heart? Any way people could try to like contact you?
My email, I'm more than happy to chop it up with whoever. If anybody has questions or feedback, stuff like that, I'm more than happy to do it. I just want to thank you, man, because honestly, that your phone call and this whole experience means a lot to me. So it's not every day that I get a phone call from a brother saying, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. What's up?" And so I appreciate that. And like you've been saying along, that's maybe the realest thing that there is. So I'll ask you to continue to pray for me. I can continue to pray for you. And, we do our thing. And, I don't like to accept many accolades and stuff like that, but I'll take unsung hero. I'll take that.
That's it, bro. That's that hungry dog mentality, man. Hungry dogs run faster. And we know where our crown is, man. Our crown is in heaven in Jesus' name, man. So, it's my pleasure to talk to you, man, on here and off of here. I pray that the people who are watching and listening, I pray that you got something from this conversation here with the Royalty Connection podcast, where we're talking unbiased truth, family, agape love, and just real conversation. So God bless you, brother. I love you. And looking forward to the great things that God has in store.
Love you too, my man. Tell your family I said hello.
You got it. Peace.